Here's how our 32-year-old client lowered her A1C from a 6.1 to a 5.6 without Ozempic, without Metformin, without cutting out carbs, after struggling with this, not seeing results for 8 years. Emma was a client that came to us with prediabetes. She had a predicted A1C of 6.1 based on her CGM readings and had been trying for the past 8 years to get it down, but wasn't seeing it budge. And she wasn't one of those clients that was not trying, not putting in effort. She was trying everything, but it still wasn't working. I'm Isaac Pohlman, a registered dietitian, a fellow person with type 1 diabetes, and the founder of the Pohlman Institute. And we help our clients stabilize their blood sugar so they're experiencing less spikes, less crashes, have more stability, even while eating carbs and without having to rely on medication to create that. If you want to reverse your prediabetes and insulin resistance like Emma has, just comment the word interest on Instagram or click the link in the description to learn more. From there, me and my team will show you exactly what you're missing to be able to do just that. Now back to Emma, because she was a hard worker. She had tried coaching, Weight Watchers, Noom, prediabetes nutrition courses and coaching. She had tried vitamin and mineral courses, HTMA tests, functional skincare programs, and even working with traditional dietitians who specialized in blood sugar support. She tried all sorts of diets, cutting out all the white carbs, cutting out the desserts, cutting out the dairy, the gluten, eating more anti-inflammatory, and bumping up her fiber intake. She tried the supplements, the berberine, the Avasitol, the vitamins, the minerals, the exercise, the walks, the swimming, the weightlifting, the gardening. But even after all of those things, her A1C, her fasting blood sugar were still not budging. Her fasting blood sugar was over 100. Her A1C predicted was at a 6.1. And even though she lost some weight with some of those programs, she reduced her acne, she improved her energy levels, reduced that inflammation that she was experiencing, it still wasn't budging her 6.1 A1C. It wasn't budging her over 100 fasting blood sugar readings. She also didn't feel like she was building sustainable habits that she could really stick to. She didn't feel confident going into her next annual doctor's appointment without feeling worried about where her A1C was going to be, where her fasting blood sugar was going to be, getting that lecture that we all know about. And then she knew that, despite maybe having some habits at home that she could stick with, she knew that there were going to be challenges on the road, traveling, off routine days, and really being able to keep and maintain a normal blood sugar level even during those times as well. And that's when Emma started working with our practitioner, Christina. Christina is absolutely amazing at helping women to reverse prediabetes and insulin resistance. She is like the queen of that on our team. And we learned very quickly that Emma knew about a lot of things. She was very well informed. She studied a lot, obviously, with the courses and the practitioners. She was very smart, very intelligent. The problem that she had was really implementing that, but also being too much inundated by all this different information, all these different things, and really not quite having the things, the habits that were really going to help her. Because really, when we look at it, that's the only answer that you need to figure out. It doesn't matter what looks good on paper for somebody else or a specific diet. What matters is, how does it show up for you in your blood sugars, in your energy, in your satisfaction, in the way that you sleep? That's when you know, when all of those things are improving, that you hit the jackpot. I think so many times we get so beholden to, okay, does this work for type 1 diabetes or prediabetes or insulin resistance? And the thing is, with our coaching, we're making adjustments to build your protocol, your approach, in a way that draws out the best in your body, the best energy, the best satisfaction for hours and hours and hours, the best sleep, the best weight loss, because that's what matters most. Of course, we have guidelines. Of course, we have structures to help you do that, to be in the ballpark of where you need to be. But at the end of the day, we're all individual and all respond to things a little bit differently. And the magic in that is being able to adjust it in accordance to how your body is responding positively. And when you can do that, that's when you know you answered the right appropriate question. And that's when you're going to see the results that you're so desperate for. Because the secret is not in, oh, it's this diet and these combination of foods in this protocol. The secret is listening to your body and doubling down on the things that are actually helping to get to your goals. And when you can do that and listen in and tune in, and sometimes it takes a level of slowing down to be able to do that, because so many that we work with, they're so sped up, they have so many things on their plate going through their mind, and especially when we focus on health in that way too, where we're like, we're learning this and we're learning that, and we're on podcasts and we're looking at books and we're following all these people on social media. It's so easy to just feed right into that approach where we're just fast-paced, go, 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 go. But the moment that we're able to slow down, the moment that we're able to listen to our bodies and what it's saying is the moment where things change, and it's a skill. This skill is not taught enough, in my opinion, because we work with so many clients that have all these experiences with diets, and on face value, they should have seen way more improvements than they've already seen. But that goes to show the key is not with the diet. The key is with learning what your body responds to and doubling down on those things that are helping to lower the blood sugar, improve the energy, improve your satisfaction, improve your fasting readings by 5 points, lose 5 pounds, feel more energized after a weightlifting workout. So many times we discount those small wins and we're like, oh, I'll only be happy if I'll make progress when I lose the 20 pounds, when I reverse the A1C completely. But the more that we put our focus there, the less we're going to focus on the things that are actually moving the needle now, that are actually going well now. And I promise you, when you do that, so many times it's so much easier to get to that end result. It's much less stressful. It's much more enjoyable because you're actually paying attention to the momentum and the wins that you're having. And ironically, when we're lowering stress, when we're paying attention to those little things that are actually going right along the way and not waiting for this big end result to show itself, to feel validated that we accomplished something, when we're able to do that, that end result comes so much quicker and so much easier with less effort than we ever would have imagined. Here are the main things that made a difference for Emma. Number one, it was eating dense, satisfying, satiating meals that, number one, kept her blood sugar stable, but also led to her feeling full for hours and hours afterwards. This is one of the biggest problems that we see for clients with their nutrition. They might be eating healthy and clean and vegetables and carbs and proteins, yet those foods are not very dense. And when they're not very dense, they're not very satisfying, they're not very stabilizing. It's very similar to if you were to build a fire. And let's say you put twigs on that fire, you put newspaper, you put gas. That fire is going to really shoot up, right? It's going to go really high. But as quick as it shoots up, it's going to be as quick as it falls because there's nothing for it to work on. There's no logs, there's no fuel to keep it going. And that's how many people are approaching their nutrition. They're eating yogurts. They're eating granola bars. They're eating tiny salads. They're eating a little bit of chicken breast. They're eating nut bars or trail mix. They're eating cottage cheese and fruit. They're eating cheese. They're eating beef jerky. They're eating healthy and clean, but they're not eating satiating enough for them to see a difference with that. So an example of a very dense meal would have 3 things. Number one, it would have a protein source. Ideally, an animal-based source, whether that be meat, like a steak, whether that be poultry, like some chicken thighs, whether that be seafood, like salmon, for example. All those are dense, and I would say the most dense of that would be the steak. It has fat, it has a protein that really sticks with somebody, right? Next category I would look at is fiber. So if we're eating like a salad, for example, that's not very filling. You're going to have to eat a lot of that spinach, for example, or lettuce to feel full. Versus if you filled up on Brussels sprouts or cauliflower or broccoli or asparagus or green beans, there's some big volume with that. And that gives us a log for our proverbial fire or metabolism to work on to feel stable and steady. So that one is huge. So let's just go with Brussels sprouts there. So we have steak and Brussels sprouts. Next, we have the carbs. For someone with prediabetes, their body can't tolerate a lot of carbs. It doesn't mean we need to get rid of them, because they're also very supportive to energy. They're supportive to sleep, to hormones, to cycles. So we want to make sure we keep a level of those in, but hit a sweet spot so we're getting enough to nourish our body, but not too much where then we're causing higher blood sugars, higher A1Cs as a result. So a dense form of carbs would be like butternut squash, sweet potato, turnips, parsnips. A squash or root vegetable that carries with it a lot of fiber, a lot of bulk, even some starch that keeps us full for hours. So let's just pick a sweet potato. And it doesn't have to be a lot of sweet potato, right? Could be a little bit of sweet potato for the tolerance that you have. Could be a good hunk of steak and a good amount of Brussels sprouts. And now you have this really dense meal. And particularly when clients can get that and eat that early enough, whether that be at breakfast, whether that be at lunch, that helps them to feel more satisfied into the evening, so they're not getting as many cravings, they're not feeling as hungry. And when we're less hungry in the evening, not that we need to have a cutoff period of time, but when we're naturally full and satisfied into the evening, that supports the exact hormones, called your circadian rhythm, that help to lower that fasting blood sugar and that A1C. Because when you think about it, when we can regulate our blood sugar in the evening time, that's like over a third of the part of your day. So without even you thinking about it, without even you being conscious about it, when those levels look better, your A1C is naturally going to come down because it's such a big part of your day. And of course, the A1C is a byproduct of how many hours over the course of the day that you're spending at a normal level blood sugar. So it's a change where the juice is very much worth the squeeze. The other thing that I see across the board is underrating the impact of stressors around you, or stress impacts on the body. Because we think of stress as, oh, we can't control it. It's always something that's going to be out there. Work, demands, responsibilities, kids, etc. But stress isn't stressors. Those are all stressors that I just named. Stress is the impact, the potential impact, I should say, of those stressors on our bodies. When we are not supporting our body well enough, when we don't have resilience and the ability to handle those stressors, that's what creates stress on our body. Not automatically that stressor is occurring. So that's important to distinguish, because on one hand, we could say, oh, we don't have control over stress, there's nothing we can do. But on the other hand, we could say, well, we do control our body's reaction to it and how high our blood sugar spikes, or how well our body tolerates carbs as a result of how well we handle stress. So for Emma, it was really important that we find things that could really regulate that. That started with going to bed earlier. So we talk about circadian rhythm hormones, those hormones that help to keep us insulin sensitive, to lose weight, to promote a healthier appetite, to feel more energized. By her going to bed earlier, that resulted in less of that cortisol production, which is a huge player when it comes to raising fasting blood sugar and raising A1C. She also reduced screen time at night. When we're getting a lot of screen time at night, that cortisol, which is a stress hormone, naturally goes up. When that goes up, we have more of a challenge of regulating that blood sugar, of keeping it down, preventing spikes, fasting blood sugar spikes, A1C spikes. So when we can reduce the amount of light that we see at night, automatically our body's able to produce more of the hormone melatonin. Melatonin might be a hormone that you're familiar with. Maybe you supplemented with it in the past. This is a hormone that our body produces on its own in the presence of darkness. So when we're not stimulated by all this light, on this ring light, on this laptop, on this phone. So when we're not stimulated as much, we can produce the very hormone that helps us get good quality sleep. Well, when we get good quality sleep, we feel more energized, we have better blood sugars in the morning, we are less insulin resistant, and we have better carb tolerance. So it hits on exactly what she's trying to work on. She also felt like it was important to find a less stressful job. That was a big stressor for her that her body just really wasn't handling. And she made that swap, and now she's really thriving in her new job. This is me not saying that you have to quit your job, but it goes to show, like, she had some self-awareness that, hey, this was something that just wasn't aligned with how I want to live my life moving forward, the health that I want. And this is getting in the way of that. And there's two sides of the stress coin. One, it's getting rid of those stressors that you can. And in this case, for Emma, that was one of them, but also improving that resilience. So it's looking at both sides of that. There's less wiggle room, of course, on getting rid of stress because we all are going to be exposed to that in the modern world. But it's still important to look at and say, okay, is this important for me to carry on? Or are there new ways that I could approach this? And Emma felt like, hey, this is a new way that I need to approach it, and she's reaping the benefits of that. She also felt like it was good to add a little bit of fun to her routine. So many times when we talk to clients and we go through their routine and we ask them, what do you do for fun? And they're like, they just give us a blank stare back and they're not really sure what to say. And I just want to say, if that's you, like it's totally normal. When you're an adult and you have work responsibilities, you have kids' responsibilities, you have bills to pay, you're moving, you have all of these things going on as an adult where the lowest hanging fruit to remove is that fun, right? The problem with that, especially when you're pursuing health, is many times the health journey can replace that. Well, that time that maybe would have gone to that is now replaced by you doing health research. It's now replaced by, you looking up the latest podcast or the latest book or the latest free resource. And for so many of our clients that are really motivated, it's good intentions, but they're taking away the very things that makes them them. And when we do that, we sacrifice our own health in the name of pursuing health. And that's never, no matter how good of a plan, how good of a podcast that is, it's never going to lead to the result that we want. So what's important is looking at the things in your life that have been fun for you. Maybe going back as far as when you were a kid and what you did for fun just for the sake of doing it. Would you play sports? Would you play board games? Would you play card games? Would you read books? What would you do, assuming health wasn't an issue, assuming you had all the time on your hands? And then what you want to do is thinking, okay, which one of those do I have access to right now? Which one of those do I have the energy mentally and physically for right now? And what do I have time for? Because it might not be like you have 60 minutes to play with. It might be you have 5 minutes to play with, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but some is better than nothing. Because when we teach our body that fun is safe and fun is good and fun is consistent, naturally that stress is going to continue to lower. And that leads to more insulin sensitivity, better carb tolerance, more diet flexibility, and not having to be so micromanaging with the foods that you eat. And then lastly, number 3, we really supported her mindset with a habit tracker. Because Emma was one of those people that, like many, wants to be a perfectionist. She wants to make sure she is maximizing every single day, is getting the exercise, is eating the healthy foods. And she felt guilty many times when she couldn't necessarily do that picture perfect, especially on the road or traveling or off days. So what we did is we had her make a tracker of all of the days that she was really consistent with her habits versus the days where she wasn't. And we had her zoom out because I think it's so easy to micro-focus on those days that we don't do so well. Well, when we zoomed out, 98% of her days were exactly how she wanted them to go, and a few mixed in that weren't as consistent. And when we zoom out, it's like, wow, yeah, I do see all of the good things that I'm doing. And that's a huge important piece because many of you are very hard on yourselves, especially with all the other things that you have on your plate. And this is a double-edged sword because when you have this mentality, it is a thing that makes you great at a lot of things. It makes you a great parent. You show up, you're present, you go to every single match, every single game. You support your kids as much as you humanly possibly can. When you're in the workplace, you are someone who thrives. You do your best work. You are an overachiever. Your standard is going above and beyond. The problem is when we take that mindset and put it into our health, that level of attention to detail can be helpful, but can also be stressful. Because we aren't seeing or identify the things that we actually are doing good. We're just fixing on, okay, how do I make sure I'm doing this perfectly? And health doesn't come from perfection. It doesn't come from being on top of things with a micromanaging level of detail. It comes from actually being able to relax a little bit and say, hey, yes, this is serious, but it's not so serious that I need to stress myself out when I don't have a good day of eating, when I don't have a good meal of eating, when I eat out and I have a pizza, when I have a dessert. That's not going to be the end of you not being able to reverse your prediabetes, of not being able to lower your A1C, of not being able to lower your fasting reading, no matter how much the internet or social media might make you believe that's the case. And Emma is proof of that, because in just 5 months of working together, Emma was able to lower her A1C from a 6.1 to a 5.6, so fully reverse her prediabetes without cutting out carbs, without going on Ozempic, without going on Metformin, without relying on any of these weight loss drugs to be able to do that. She was able to get her fasting reading under 100 without cutting out carbs. She was able to wake up more easily. Instead of feeling groggy and tired, she was able to wake up in the morning without an alarm. She has found a more enjoyable, much less stressful job where she's really thriving. And so this is the key too. She is able to make changes beyond just her health. And ironically, that ends up being one of the biggest impacts to our health. And that's when you know that you've made some big changes. Many people, when we look at changes, we look at, oh, did I drink vinegar before this meal? Did I take my berberine? Did I take my Avasitol? And those can certainly have a time and place, but it's not a fundamental, it's not a reason as to why you have the blood sugar issues that you do. But the job for her was. And so when we see clients making these changes beyond just health, that's when you know you're going to see some really big changes. And that's what Emma saw. So when you work with us, you are going to lower your blood sugar. You are going to lower your A1C. You are going to reverse your prediabetes and insulin resistance. But you're also going to be able to eat carbs while doing it. You're also going to not have to micromanage your nutrition. You're also going to do that without medications. You're also going to do that while feeling more fun and fulfilled in your day-to-day life, because ironically, the things that help you to do that also help with blood sugar control. We teach you to understand your body, what it needs, how to eat, how to live, so you can stabilize those blood sugar levels for good. When you're ready to reverse your insulin resistance and prediabetes without cutting out carbs, without going on Metformin, without going on Ozempic, DM us interest on Instagram or click the link in the description below.